driver, which is this 2004 Mini Cooper S behind me and this really inconveniently placed pole in my garage. Mini Cooper here is a supercharged inline 1.6 liter with a 6-speed. And I want to argue that it is the best car that you can buy to drive every day for under $5,000. In fact, this one here, it cost me only $3,200 with 89,000 miles. This Mini Cooper is pretty well equipped, especially when you consider the low price points that they're selling at, and the fact that this car is nearly 15 years old. It has a leather interior, it's got a panoramic sunroof, although the back one does not open. It's got navigation, although it's a little bit outdated and clunky at this point to use, and it's not a touchscreen. When this car was new in 2004, whoever bought this pretty much loaded it up with everything, which is a really good thing to look for when you're looking for a used car. Options on a new car are really expensive. They can cost, 20-30% of the car if you really option a car out to the max. When you go to buy a used car, sometimes it doesn't even affect the price. It'll just affect the desirability or how fast something will sell. If it does affect the price, it's usually by 5, maybe 10%, depending on what the options are, what the car is, and how old it is. So one of the things that I really like about Mini Coopers in general, especially Mini Cooper S's, they always feel a little bit more powerful than they actually are. These R53 Mini Cooper S's had a supercharged inline 6. They made about 162 horsepower. It feels to me more like it has 200. They make a great little noise without being obnoxious or loud. You just get sort of that supercharger whine. I don't know how much that can be picked up on the camera. The non-S Mini Coopers kind of had a problem with the transmission. It was called the Midlands transmission, so I've sort of avoided those. But for the money, I don't know why you would get a non-S Mini Cooper. You wouldn't really save very much, and you would have, half the car. So for the price point that I bought this car at, which was just over $3,000, I don't think that there's a better car that you can drive daily, every day, drive to work, not really care about, that is also this much fun to drive. I mean, every time I drive this car, it puts a smile on my face. It's, as I said before, surprisingly quick, or it feels surprisingly quick, and that's something that I focused on a lot, is that there's a big difference between going fast and speed and the illusion of speed. So something like my Miata with the top down on a back road, it's got a little bit of work done to the exhaust. It has a illusion of speed. You feel like you're going much faster than you are, which is a lot of fun. It's always more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. Even with that 997 that I have, it's kind of hard to open it up anywhere, and that's only like 325 horsepower in those, with the 3.6 liter. So as I said, it's currently 18 degrees. It's kind of icy, so it's not a really good day for spirited drives. But this car is just so much fun to mash the pedal, and because you're not driving a really high horsepower car, you're driving something again with about 160 horsepower. Again, we're on Blizzak tires, and it's the winter, but you can really just kind of mash the pedal everywhere. So some of the quirks that I had since I got this car, when I first test drove it, I noticed that the clutch pedal was kind of hard, which from what I've read about Mini Coopers is a common problem. As the clutches age, the pressure plates get kind of lazy, and the pedal will feel really heavy. It doesn't mean that the clutch is worn out, it just means that it's older, and it's definitely something to take into account. It's something I took into account when I made my offer on this particular Mini, and it's just something to know. I actually looked at another Mini Cooper S, and when I test drove it, it had the same clutch feel. It was very heavy. It was actually heavier than this car and almost slipping a little bit. And the owner of that car told me that the clutch had just been done. At that point, I chose to walk away from the car because I didn't trust the seller. That's something that I pretty much always do. If I get a funny feeling from the seller, even if it's a really good deal, but I don't trust them, I don't trust the car. And in the cars that I've bought in the past where I went against my gut and I didn't trust the car, or I didn't trust the seller, and I bought, I've been kind of headaches, and I've always had some random problems with them. I had a Porsche Boxster years ago that I kind of had a funny feeling about, but it was such a good deal that I bought it. About a week later, I'm driving along and I hit a bump in the road, and every single light came on the dashboard. I pulled over, I turned the car off, I turned it back on, everything was fine. And randomly that would happen. I would hit bumps and every light would come on. It started making some strange noises, and the car only had 27,000 miles on it. I ended up parting ways with that car, but I really should not have gone against my gut, and that's something that I've sort of changed my thinking about now. So anyways, back to Mini Coopers. With the hard clutch, doesn't mean that it's worn out. It just means that the clutch is older, the pressure plate is getting lazy, and as long as it's not slipping, it's probably okay. I'm planning to do a clutch on this in the spring once I can put one of my other cars back into daily service. So one of the other weird things that I have noticed on this Mini, the pixels on the radio screen will go out until the car is warmed up. I had a Z4 years ago that did that. It seems to be kind of like a BMW screen thing. I'm not really sure why the Germans can't figure out how to keep all the pixels working in their screens, but maybe something they've sorted out. The climate control works. The navigation screen works, although it's really dated. It's not just that it's pixelated, it's that it's clunky. It has this stupid knob that you have to turn to adjust everything, so entering an address takes way longer than pulling out my iPhone and just putting it into Waze or Google Maps or whatever you use to get your directions from. One nice thing that the navigation added, which is one of the reasons that I wanted it, besides having a trip computer, is that it moves the speedometer over here next to the tachometer, which to me makes a lot more sense. I'm not a big fan of the big speedo in the middle of the Mini Cooper. I've actually had some friends who did not buy newer Mini Coopers because they don't like listening to their wives complain about how fast they're going. I know that sounds stereotypical, but that's really what they told me. So all the new Mini Coopers, even with navigation, have the speedometer around it in the middle, and obviously your passenger, whoever that may be, can see exactly how fast you're going. That wasn't really a concern for me, but I really liked having the tachometer and the speedometer right up in front of me here. One of the other strange things that I noticed when I first got this car is that it doesn't have a temperature gauge. There is no engine temperature gauge. There's a warning light, but there's no gauge, which is something I noticed on the test drive because I always like to make sure that a car is running at a normal temperature, that it's not running too cool or too hot, which both can point to all different kinds of problems that the car is having. It's kind of a really easy way to gauge how well a car is operating. Actually, something that made me nervous in buying it is that I couldn't tell if it was having any problems. It's always nice. Something that you're going to hear that comes up a lot is that whenever I'm having a problem with something, I will get on Google, I will search. I also have the luxury of what my day job is and the people that I'm surrounded with, and they tend to help me get through problems as well. We can get into that in another episode, what it actually is that I do for a living. The merge. I'm not sure how much of that supercharger whine is translating onto the camera. Just sounds so cool. I know a lot of people add exhaust to these. It's my daily driver. I'm not against loud cars, but it's certainly not something that I'm looking to do. I'm not really looking to put an exhaust on here. My wife is not a big fan of droning cars on the highway. I doubt she'll even ever ride in the Porsche because of how loud it is. So if you hunt around on classified sites like Craigslist or eBay, maybe even some sort of small local car dealers, these Mini Coopers can be had for $3,000 to $5,000. Things that I would avoid would be the first 2 years. 2002 and 2003 Mini Cooper S's seem to have more issues. Any new car, any new model with a new engine, I always avoid the first year or two. This has been sort of a little test drive. I'm actually on my commute to work. I'm just about to get there now.